Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudo, joined as always by AJ Hafley. And yes, it is Christmas Eve, but it is also the eve of the 2021 WJC tournament. Hockey That Matters, AJ, is finally back. Are you ready to dive into a bunch of prospects or what?
I'm ready to dive into competitive hockey, especially after watching the NBA open up.
Yeah, the Nuggets game was brutal, man.
and like remembering how inferior all the other sports are to hockey. As an all-sport fan, normally it annoys me when hockey fans act like that, but it's just true. And watching the fiasco that is NBA officiating last night has me so excited to get back to being pissed off about offsides challenges. It's going to be amazing. And then tomorrow we get literally a Christmas present of our first competitive hockey since the Cup.
Yeah, it's been far too long. Of course, there have been some European leagues and QMJHL games around the world, but nothing quite as competitive, nothing quite, in this case with Team Canada, as Avs related as the WJCs are going to be. So,
yeah, might be the last time for a little while that the Avs are prominently featured at WJCs. They've got 3 guys as part of Team Canada. 2 of them should be playing in significant roles. And then, 1 guy on Team USA who's kind of a quieter guy, but should be, will be fun to watch him. But it might be the last time for a while. All their other guys are going to age out. They don't have any second-round picks for the next couple of years. Third-round picks don't tend to typically make a whole lot of noise.
Unless they start hitting on their late first-round picks, which, I mean, fingers crossed, of course. But
yeah, like Justin Barron, right?
Yep, exactly.
But even then, this might be the last time that we have a chance to see multiple high-profile Avalanche prospects play prominent roles in the WJCs for quite a while.
Yeah, I certainly would agree. Certainly, you have to think the last time we see 3+ Avs on the same team, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Unless they just start drafting purely Swiss kids.
Yeah, right. There you go. Hey, all right. I'm looking at this Team Austria roster, and they're outside of Rossi, they're all 2021 eligible. So,
yeah, well, we'll get there.
Yeah, I know. But let's start with Team Canada. Let's start with the Avs guys. We've talked about them before, but we can kind of just run this down again. The Avs sending 3 players in Bowen Byram, Alex Newhook, and Justin Barron, all there. Bowen Byram is expected to essentially be Canada's number 1D. Alex Newhook has kind of been moving up the lineup throughout, I guess you'll call it training camp. I don't know. They're in and out of quarantine all the time, but he's looking like he's getting time at 2 center at this point. And then Justin Barron looks like he's probably going to be on the bottom pair or maybe even a 7th D. We'll see. But nonetheless, the Avs have 2 very prominent names on Team Canada and then a 3rd guy as well.
Yeah. Newhook has kind of been on their kind of a grit and grind kind of line, next to Peltier and Dylan Holloway.
Yep.
2 guys who are, they're hard on pucks. They play a real physical game. Very, very good complement to Newhook's over-the-top skill level. Not to take away from Newhook's own doggedness defensively. He's decent in his own zone and getting better. Yeah, exactly. And I think that especially with Kirby Dach's injury, that out for the tournament now, they're gonna need Alex Newhook to play well. Not that they don't have 8 other centers that can jump in and take that spot, because they do, but they're going to need Alex Newhook to play pretty well.
Yeah, no argument against that. I mean, I look, Canada are almost always the favorites coming into this type of thing, particularly in a year where a team like Sweden has basically had their roster decimated. But
yeah, well, and you look at their group too is even in a normal year, the group that they're in
particularly strong. Yeah,
it's like Canada's going to roll that group.
Yep,
hard. It's Canada and Finland, and then it's like, who cares? Because Switzerland, Slovakia, and Germany aren't going to scare anybody at this point, especially a severely compromised German team.
Yeah. Healthy, you maybe have a little bit of hope for Germany, but even then, you're not expecting a ton.
Yeah, and I believe they're going in with like 3 forward lines.
Yeah.
To their first game. So
names non-prospect people will recognize are pretty much Stützle and Peterka, and that's it.
I mean, they could be, again, that's the of the group, that's the weaker of them, so they could still make some noise, but they're not gonna. So much wind got taken out of the sails of the German team before they ever got started because of positive test results.
Yep.
So it sucks. We won't really get to see the German team.
Proper German team, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a bummer. But Team Canada, I feel like Team Canada is particularly strong this year. Usually, there's somewhere on their team that you're kind of like, but these guys are just, and I'm. They're not in a group with the United States, so I'm free to guilt-free root for Team Canada just for the Avs prospects alone. I can hope that they do well.
Stage, yeah.
Yeah, and then whenever they play each other, then the hate is on, especially in this house. So, looking forward to that. But the Canadian team, man, I mean, they're just stacked. They're the easy favorites. You can't talk about WJCs without talking about they won the gold medal. They are dominant. I mean, this team is incredibly talented, and we could look back on this group in 5-10 years and think, holy smokes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just comparing to Team Finland, and Team Canada has one player that is not drafted, and that's because he's a 2021 eligible. Whereas Team Finland, arguably their biggest competition in that group, has at least a handful of undrafted players.
Well, the majority of the Canadians are first and second round picks, too.
Yep, exactly.
I think the majority of them are first rounders. I don't even think they're second.
Yeah, it's just a little bit ridiculous, the riches of Canada when it comes to the WJCs. So certainly you have to think Canada is the favorites. Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Tomasino before the Doc injury was their 14th forward.
Yep.
Tomasino is a guy that I loved in his draft year.
Yep.
And has gotten significantly better the last couple of years. A meaningful prospect for Avs fans to fear as a Nashville Predator prospect. But for that guy to be the 14th forward, you have to be stacked. I mean, Shane Wright didn't even make this team.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but this was a team that had multiple players removed from it, not because of COVID, but because the NHL teams were like, nah, we need that guy.
Right? I mean, Kirby Dach could have easily been one of them, too.
Yep.
Bowen Byram could have been one of them. And they would have just, but Byram would have been a little tougher to replace because, high-end defensemen like that are just
hard to come by
around. And
for sure.
Even for the Canadians, it's a little tougher to come by.
You say that, but you look at their defense and you go, oh well, This is a bunch of first round picks.
Yeah. Yeah. Really looking forward to watching Justin Barron in that environment.
Yep.
We've done so much talking about Newhook and Byram for a couple of years, and we expect Byram to play in the NHL this year. at some level, like at some point, he'll get into a game. We expect Alex Newhook to be in the NHL next season. Justin Barron, kind of like the torchbearer of the future, I guess, like the real, like the distant-ish future. Theoretically, he could be in the AHL next season and then the NHL the year after that. So it may not be like, may not be talking about 3 years, but we could be talking about.
It's still the next wave of guys, right?
Yeah,
he's someone that, especially with the injuries he's dealt with in his draft year running over into this year.
Yeah.
As an Av, we've seen a handful of Q games from him, and that's it. And now we get to jump in and see him against the best competition there is at his age level. So
yeah, and he'll be playing more of a depth role. So I'm not expecting stardom here, but you want to see him. You want to see him do well. You want to see him have a good showing and use it as a springboard for moving ahead. Very much like what we saw out of Connor Timmons.
Yep.
We didn't have high expectations for him in those WJCs. It was like, hey, we'll see if he gets in the lineup. Made the team, got in the lineup, performed very, very well, and that was it. That was a launching point for him into a great year and what has been mostly positive development for him as a prospect.
Look,
I mean, we've talked about it. Connor Timmons would be in the NHL if it were not for the
injuries and the Avs. Yeah,
yeah, like he would be in the NHL for a bunch of other teams already.
Yep,
like he'd be a top 4 defender for Winnipeg right now.
It's exciting that we get to watch all of these Avs guys. But we also will have Drew Hallison over on Team USA as well, which neat.
Yeah.
Hallison is not a guy you're going to get his name called very much, but the fact that he's there is still someone else to watch, still an interesting opportunity for him to do his thing. A similar vein to Barron, I guess you could say, where, look, you're still expecting this guy to be a couple of years away from even knocking on the door of an NHL spot. But the Avs, given the defense that they have, with Bowen Byram, Connor Timmons coming very, very soon, Justin Barron shortly after that, if it looks like Hallison can hang, then the Avs have a very deep defensive prospect pool. So,
yeah. He honestly is we've talked about him a lot, but he is a kind of a unique sort of style of Avs defender. All the other guys, Timmons, it's a high IQ game. Barron, it's great skating, good size, good all around, does a little bit of everything at a high level. Hallison, it's great skating, real mean streak.
Yep. Like
a real mean streak that I'm excited to see in action. I want to, he's their Adam Foote.
Yep.
Basically. I'm excited to see it, man. I didn't love his pick, and I've been kind of down on him from day one. Some of that is him, and some of that is Colorado's history of not being able to develop these guys.
Yep.
The Avs have historically always kind of had offensive defensemen that they either find or develop. Lyles into Barry into McCarr now.
Yep.
Hallison is a different breed. He's a guy that they've really struggled to bring along, and boy, he would really tie up that defense nicely if he was a legit player. I mean, they would have too many defenders if he ended up panning out. If somehow all these guys pan out, right? And you end up McCarr, Timmons, Barron, and Hallison all as legit on the right side. You're the one team in the NHL with a surplus of righties.
Yeah. The Avs are basically set at that point because you also have Gerard and Taves for the foreseeable future on the left side.
Well, and then Byram's in there, and so you're just like,
so stupid. That is just a hilarious amount of riches.
This is where Barron and Hallison, if they each take 2 more years, you're okay with that.
Yep.
You know,
you don't need them right away. Yeah.
Those ELCs could prove valuable. The extra year of making sure that they are ready to play the minute they get into the NHL versus maybe using those last 20 games as like kind of the last road of development for them, you know, where a guy gets there and he's not quite ready, but he plays 20, 30 NHL games and he really smooths it out and you're good to go. You maybe give that guy an extra AHL season.
Yep.
He jumps into the league right away. He's ready to rock.
Suddenly you're paying that guy $880K in the year that you're paying McKinnon $13 million. So
right. And that's what you need. They're gonna need those ELCs. They're gonna be real valuable. So it's not all about the Canadian stars. You know, Byram and Newhook, we've already said, everybody already knows. They don't need to come to us for any kind of a WJC preview on those two. They're stars. They're going to play big-time roles. You should see a lot of them, and they should do lots of things. Barron and Hallison are going to be the guys, I think, to kind of watch.
Definitely more to prove, probably, from those two. And, of course, they'll be in... Certainly, Barron will be in a more limited role. We'll see what Hallison can earn for himself on Team USA, as they always do seem to lean on those defensive defensemen a little bit more. But
yeah, well, and especially later in the tournament, teams want to tighten it up, and you know that's why we saw Connor Timmons. His role exceeded that of Cale Makar's back a couple of years ago because they wanted the guy that they felt.
Yeah, there were some choices made in that one, but
yeah, I mean, Cale Makar looked awesome, and everybody was like, well, "What's going on?" To the point where Ray Ferraro in the gold medal game on television is melting down because he's like, "What are you doing?" Worked out okay. So
good to have you live, Kirk. Sorry to cut you off there, AJ. No green screen because I went to put it up and I pulled the hook out of my ceiling, so got to get that fixed. We'll get it back after Christmas. Don't worry about it.
I would have Doggo Cam, but he comes to me when he wants his butt scratched, so it's not great Doggo Cam footage.
Everybody loves the Doggo Cam. It don't matter.
And now he just went back upstairs to go back to bed.
That's a weak Doggo Cam. All right, first period break. Hassel Cattle Company, the official Steak of the World Championships. The WFC is held in Dallas. They have 1,500 chefs from 45 states and 20 countries, all competing for $350,000. The Super Bowl of food sports. They get 850 ribeyes for the shed steak cook-off. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you could go win money by being awesome at cooking, and that's exactly what Hassel Cattle Company does. So if you want to try some of the best steaks in the country, certainly, if not in the world, Hassel Cattle Company is the one for you. Damn good beef, now alongside our damn good beer from Breckenridge Brewery. Why not jump in on it? Their blue collar Wagyu is the best Wagyu that every man and woman can afford. I had their Wagyu burgers last week, and they're just so good. I don't know how to even explain it because they're like unbelievably juicy burgers. And there's something in my head that feels wrong about eating a burger without like ketchup and condiments and stuff on it, but I didn't eat any. I was just like, I'm just going to eat this burger plain because it was that good. So Hassel Cattle Company, get on it. Give it a try today. All of their meat is delicious. Their burgers are maybe my favorite, but they offer just about any kind of meat that you can imagine. Bacon wrapped sausage. Yeah, they got that. You want just a ribeye steak? Yeah, they got that. You name it. They have you covered. When you go on over to HassellCattleCompany.com, that's HASSELL cattlecompany.com, and use promo code DNVR10, you'll get 10% off your order, and any orders over $200 or more get free shipping as well. So check them out, and we promise you will not be disappointed. And starting this evening over the Christmas weekend, we have a WGT Golf Tournament for all of y'all. The Ho-Ho Hole-in-One Challenge, where you can play closest to the hole and win yourself some DNVR merch simply for playing. If you don't have it yet, go to DNVRGolf.com to download the game and search for DNVR4 to join our 4th clubhouse. Play in the club tournament. Just search for tournament once you get in. You play, you get to the final score, take a screenshot of that, submit it into info@thednvr.com or the pinned tweet on the main DNVR Sports Twitter account. Once you've sent that to us, you're entered to win, and at the end on Monday, we will draw a winner, and you'll be able to choose your choice of a free shirt or mask, which we will ship directly to you for free. Get on in on it, win yourself some free stuff. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. AJ, are we Austria stands now?
This podcast officially endorses Team Austria.
There you go. The official announcement. Stands? We are Austria stands. We are betting on Team Austria because why not? I mean, does this team actually have a chance of getting out of groups?
Well, so they play in the tough group.
Yeah.
If they were playing in the group with Germany, I would feel a whole lot better. But I mean, this is a tough group. The United States, Sweden, Russia, Czech Republic, Austria.
Yeah, that's some big names.
Uphill climb, man.
Yeah,
it's an uphill climb. I actually like. I like some of the talent, especially at forward. My biggest hang up is the goaltending. I don't know that they have a goaltender.
Yeah, bunch of random kind of dudes playing in some like questionable leagues.
Their best goaltender is playing in like the 3rd junior league in Finland.
Yeah,
and he's not put up great numbers. Not that I can tell you what a good number in that league looks like, because when you look at goaltending, and it's funny because we look at things like save percentage and goals against average, and we're like, oh, we view it in NHL terms.
Sure.
A guy with a 2.2 and a 922 save percentage, and we're like, yes. But then you go over and you look at a guy in the KHL, and it's like, yeah, it's good for like 15th.
Yep.
Where you're like,
dude, dropping a 950 in that league.
Yeah.
Like what?
like Pavel Francouz was like casual, like a 945 goaltender in the KHL.
Yeah.
Like and then there are other leagues that are the opposite of that. You get a goaltender in the Q that has like a 908, and you're like, oh, it's not very good. And then you go and you look around, you look at some of the goalies around them, and you look at the top goalies in that league, and you're like, oh, I'll take that. I'll take that 908 with there only being like 5 starting goaltenders that have an above 900 save percentage or something. Like all the leagues are different.
Yeah, for sure.
But to have like an 870 save percentage in the 3rd junior league in Finland
doesn't feel great.
Does not inspire a lot of confidence that the Austrians are going to be able to do some work.
I mean, the question for me more so is how much can Marco Rossi carry this team? But
it's Marco Rossi and it's Senna Peters.
Yep.
Senna Peters played. He was a depth guy for Halifax last year. I thought was maybe a borderline draftable prospect. Maybe a guy that you keep an eye on for another year or two, and especially at a tournament like this.
Type guys, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing. I think he's playing for Rögle in Sweden right now, and he's done pretty well. It's a pretty good program. So, that's going to be That's going to be it. What can those two guys do?
I mean, last year he was part of the team that got Austria up to the highest level. They were in the 1A division and managed to move up. So scored 6 points in 5 games in that tournament. So no stranger to that side of things when it comes to the Austrian national team either.
Yeah, those are the two guys to keep an eye on at forward, really. And then after that, not a lot.
Fair enough. But we'll stand them anyway, because why not? They have a guy named Maximilian Hengelmuller, which is enough for me to want to root for them.
Well, we just won over Steph House. He just joined Team Austria because that guy's got a great name. So they do have one defender, Luis Lindner, a guy to keep an eye on.
For sure. It's
part of the leadership group of that team. I think you were really, we're pushing Team Austria, but it's a long shot.
Hey, you got to root for the underdog sometimes, even if they get blasted 10-1 by the USA or something.
Yeah.
I don't judge. Go Team Austria. Let's talk about some of the other favorites here, because you mentioned Canada got the easy group outside of Finland's, but is it going to be a little bit of a bloodbath for everyone else with USA, Russia, and the Czechs?
Yeah,
and Sweden, I guess, but I keep counting out Sweden because of all the COVID.
Yeah, so Sweden missing a couple of the top guys. Their top center, arguably their top center, out with COVID, positive test, and then I don't know if he was a positive test or they just didn't bring him. But Simon Edmondson, who is basically a Victor Hedman physical copy and paste.
Yep.
Not on the team, but is a guy that very real top 15 draft potential. So not as much firepower on Team Sweden as we are accustomed to seeing. Where they do have a huge step up, though, is in net, where arguably the most exciting goaltender prospect to come out of Sweden, maybe ever, in Jesper Wallstedt.
Ever's a bit bold, but
I mean, as a draft prospect, like, not going to say he's going to be the best NHL player ever or the best NHL goaltender ever out of Sweden. There have obviously been a lot of good ones. But as a draft prospect, the dude is legit. So, for him to be locking down, he has a job.
Yeah.
In the SHL.
In the SHL, yeah. The top league in Sweden as a draft eligible.
Yeah, and he's posting great numbers. It's not like
sure.
It's not like he's got the job, but you're like, he's on a bad team, kind of getting lit up. He kind of has it because they're banking on him. No, none of that. He's a top prospect kicking ass in the SHL as an 18-year-old. Like, the kid is unreal. If Sweden's gonna be a serious factor, and I count the Swedes out at your own peril here.
Yeah. Sure.
If they're gonna be a real factor, it's gonna be on him. It's gonna be because they win 2-1 every night because of that guy. He's legit. He's awesome, and he continues this run of really good goaltending prospects. I mean, you look, Spencer Knight, Yaroslav Askarov, and now this kid.
The next wave of great goaltenders, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, would be an interesting conversation someday for what future looks brighter in the NHL. Forwards, defense, or goaltenders, just in general. But we might have to bring someone on to help round out our goaltenders. We'll see if we ever do that show.
Yeah.
Continuing on, the ever curious, at least when it comes to the World Juniors team, for Russia. Russia just does weird things with lineups a lot of the time with this tournament.
Yeah, so Russia is consistently just an older team.
Yep.
They don't bring tons of draft guys. I believe they took their WJC team to whatever cup it was that they played.
Yeah, the Four Nations or whatever.
The Karhala Cup.
That one, sure. There's like 8
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. They took that team, they took their WJC team to that.
When they the same tournament where you play a bunch of washed up NHLers, yeah.
Exactly. So that's talking about draft guys. Russia's not a great place for it because they tend to not play their dudes. This is the same country that put Andrei Svechnikov in a depth role.
Yep.
In his draft year, like psychos. They do have Daniil Chayka, maybe a first round prospect. We'll see.
You think they'll contend for a medal?
Russia's a tough out. They're always, because those guys play together so much. They play together for a long time. Even without always having that really high-end talent all the time, which is weird to say about Russia. But this is like the one tournament where Russia and talent are kind of at odds.
Yeah.
They always compete, man. It's just, the big thing is that group is really tough. And if you're going to go, if you end up lower on in the table, you run the risk of taking on Canada immediately.
Then you just are leaving the tournament.
Yeah, and then you're just
very early.
done. But but somebody's gonna have to do it. Russia, Czech Republic, United States, Sweden. Somebody's gonna have to be there.
Yep, and
Austria.
Probably Austria. Well, that's if Austria even gets out of groups, right? But
yeah, which would be a huge victory for us.
Yeah. Definitely. If they don't get relegated, I'm counting that as a dub. But
yeah, and the same way that we talked about Sweden with Wallstedt, who honestly may not even be their starter behind the guy whose name I can't say. His name is Hugo. But they have Askarov in net. Russia has Askarov. So,
and we talk about it all the time in the NHL playoffs. In a tournament setting, Askarov night, if they decide to play their guy from Sweden, you get hot in the tournament, and all of a sudden you're 2 rounds deep into the eliminations because your goalie has carried you there.
Yep, it's one of those things that happens.
Oh, nobody gets eliminated. Let's go.
These short tournaments like this. So, you look around, you look at the United States team also. Spencer Knight is the man in net. Yep. So, again, it's going to be a lot of great goaltending in this group, in Pool B.
Might be... I feel like USA might run the score up on a couple of those teams, but you might have some low-scoring games, too.
Yeah, so, we'll get there with the Americans, but... really that's kind of it, man. Like in terms of draft prospects, there aren't a ton in this group.
Yeah,
somewhat because the big draft guys I think are on the Finnish team.
Yep.
There's a couple of guys from Czech Republic and they're maybe.
Yeah, but hard to place the Czech Republic guys at the top of the list, certainly.
Yeah, and like you always keep an eye on, who's this tournament always produces depth guys.
Yep.
You always
where people make a name for themselves countries. For sure. Yeah.
Where a guy has a really good international tournament. Slovakia, you look at a guy like Max Chajkovic.
Mm-hmm.
Whose international prowess essentially is the only reason he's ever been a meaningful prospect.
Yep.
And then, has kind of fallen apart at every other level he's played. But internationally, he was insane.
Yep.
So, these international tournaments, these international competitions, they mean a lot for some of these, especially guys like the Czech Republic, guys where this is a big opportunity for them to show out against top competition that they're not going to get to play against.
Yep.
In their, playing in the Extra Liga.
Yeah, it's just, and I mean, for a lot of teams, I think the Czech Republic is probably one of the more under-scouted countries, honestly. So
definitely,
you have to make a name for yourself on these national stages. But we can take our second period break there and tell you guys about StravaCraft coffee, the CBD-infused coffee that has really changed lives. You can get 20% off when you use DNVR20 code at StravaCraftCoffee.com. And if you love the product, you can sign up for their subscription service for 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks and get 20% off every single time you buy. Highly recommend it. It's some great stuff. Helps with migraines particularly. So jump on it. Give it a try today. And yeah, just help support our sponsors, help support us. It's awesome stuff. On that note, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because that helps us too. All right, AJ, we've been beating around the bush a little bit here. Let's go back to the other group. You want to start with Finland and just talk about the wealth of prospects there?
Yeah, so Finland's obviously been on the rise the last couple of years, but they've got some guys again this year to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Draft-wise. And it's funny because their most exciting prospect is a 16-year-old.
It's the way it goes sometimes, yeah.
It's not a guy that's draft eligible this year, but it's Brad Lambert, which may be the most Finnish name I've ever heard in my life. Brad Lambert.
Yeah, sounds like he comes from Nebraska or something, but
so Lambert is part of the 2022 draft class that is at the moment looking to be insane at the top. With Lambert, Shane Wright, and Matt Savoie, you're really looking at a three-headed monster at the top of that draft. Shane Wright was the 16-year-old who got cut from Team Canada. Savoie's brother goes to DU and was, I think, a 4th-round pick this year. A guy that I really liked. Going to be interesting. Brad Lambert, a legit stud. He's the guy that I would say watch him now to keep an eye on him.
Yep.
Just because he's going to be, this is not going to be like, oh, maybe the Avs can draft this guy. This guy is going to be at the top of his draft class. The big thing, the major omission from Team Finland this time around is the Ratty brother that was supposed to be top 5.
Plummeted down draft lists, honestly.
Has not had a good year and didn't even make this team.
Yep. His older brother, Aku,
yeah,
is still on the team. But yeah, what was a lot of people were putting Atu at the best prospect for the 2021 draft before the season started. And that fall has come quick.
Yep.
So, but maybe part of that is also the fact that a lot of the risers come from the NCAA right now on draft lists. You see a lot of dudes because the NCAA is playing hockey. It certainly does.
It helps. It helps, man.
But NCAA is kind of always a weird mixed bag, right? Because you get a lot of Americans there, you get a lot of Canadians there, but you also get some Europeans that come over to play. So you get a little bit of everything there, and at least for the Canadians and the Americans, not very many end up making the team because of all the guys that they have already drafted being eligible to play in this tournament.
Yeah.
With that being said, the USA brought at least one. I need to pull up their roster. Hang on.
So I would say before we bail on Finland,
sure.
the one draft eligible guy this year that you do want to keep an eye on is Sami Helenius's kid, Samuel. who
really
is
creative names over there in Finland, eh?
a giant human being when you consider that he is 18 years old and is already 6'6", and moves pretty well. So I would keep an eye on him. I really don't know where his draft stock is at this point. It's so hard to figure out outside of the very tip-top guys.
Honestly, even the tip-top guys this year, man, nobody knows.
Outside of the Michigan trio,
it's
like I don't know. It's going to be maybe the toughest draft ever. We talked about that last year, but this year with like the WHL and OHL may not have seasons.
Yeah, you have multiple leagues looking at canceling their season. You have dudes playing all over the place. Kids from the WHL trying to play in junior A leagues, and the junior A leagues are getting canceled. So
yeah, I mean, where's Jean-Luc Foudy these days?
He was in like Sweden's third tier league.
Yeah,
so it's craziness for sure.
Yeah, and that guy's drafted. Like, he's good.
Yep.
He's in line for an ELC. You're feeling good about him, but these guys, I have no idea how they're going to draft beyond the second round this year at this point. But anyway, point being, Hellenius, keep an eye on that kid for Finland too. He's huge. Yep. He moves pretty well for his size. He's off to a good start. Not a lot of flash, but keep an eye on him.
There you go. Thank you, William. Yeah, Veneers. I probably said that wrong.
I can talk a lot about Maddie Veneers.
He is the only first-time draft eligible brought by Team USA.
The first time that I talked about Maddie Veneers was, I think, 2 years ago. You remember that Team USA squad that
was
Caulfield and Hughes and Zegras and the development program team that got 14 players drafted.
Yep.
There was one guy on that team that was 16 years old. It was Maddie Veneers.
Yep.
And he is, as much as I loved Matt Boldy, Veneers is cut from the same cloth, but better. He is a do everything jack of all trades forward,
two-way center kind of deal.
A two-way guy. Well, and what's great about him is that he has the versatility. He's playing center. He's played a ton of wing too, and he's been effective in both. He can do a little bit of everything. He plays all three forward positions at a high level right now. He's already torn up college hockey in the little bit that he's playing on a super stacked Michigan team obviously is helping. But he's a really good all-around prospect. He's very legit. I don't know that he is like a really high-end kind of guy. His best comparable, honestly, might be Matt Boldy, just because they both play that same really smart, really effective, strong two-way physical style. I like Veneers more than I liked Boldy. I think Veneers is probably my favorite prospect in this year's draft.
AJ really, really liked Boldy, for the record.
Yeah, I did.
So
that's why the Wild took him. I really like that Beckman too, and they took that guy.
Yeah, AJ can't have anything he likes. It's just the way.
They ended up with Byram and Newhook that year.
Yeah, true. But
when that happened, you and I were like, we can't believe this is going to be the greatest draft show we've ever done. We're so happy. We're so excited.
Yeah, true. I certainly had no complaints. I guess the Blues ended up with Alexandrov a little bit later in that draft, so
yeah, that was a bit of a dick punch.
What can you do?
Not get punched.
I don't know, Colin. A lot of AJ's favorite end up being Ducks too,
which makes me feel good because they draft well. This United States team is honestly going to be a lot of fun. I try not to like really crazy hype them up because United States hockey has a long history of disappointment.
Not doing the thing. Yeah.
So, I don't get too amped up about it, but this should be a really good team. This might be the best and the last really great American squad for a couple of years.
A while. Unless the youngest Hughes brother can do something, but
I tell you, dude, Luke Hughes.
For real?
He's pretty good, man.
All right. Any other random offshoot prospects you want to talk about, or should we just wrap this thing up and give Austria the gold medal here?
I mean, obviously, we're going to give Austria the gold medal. They're bae. But I really do want to say that the United States should compete. This should be a team that competes. Drew Hallison, their defense. So the United States defense is very defensive. There's a lot of really good defenders on it. Not as much puck moving skill as some of the others, but I'm really looking forward to Drew Hallison.
I mean, you put a defense like that in front of Spencer Knight, and it's not going to be easy to score on.
It theoretically it should be pretty tough. Yeah.
So, should be some interesting hockey to say the least. All right, let's do it this way. Austria gets the platinum medal. Give me your gold, silver, bronze predictions.
I mean, gold is going to obviously be Canada. I just don't. I'm never counting out Team Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go with them as silver, and then probably Finland.
I'm taking USA for the silver. I'll stick with your Finland for bronze, but I think Sweden's on the outs this year.
I just don't. I mean, even when Sweden is not, even when they're not loaded up on,
not at full power, they're still incredibly powerful. Yeah,
their goaltending is just so good, man. So I'm not.
DD Krebs versus Newhook for AJ and I is going to be a great what if for a very, very long time, I think.
Yeah, like I preferred Krebs for the style, but like if you go back and you listen to all of our shows leading up to the draft, we loved Newhook, and there was no qualms about taking him.
Certainly not disappointed that you ended up with Newhook, put it that way.
There was no... The only question was the stylistic fit, right? Krebs was the all-around two-way guy. Could he have been the Ryan O'Reilly for Nathan McKinnon long-term?
And then,
whereas Alex Newhook is more
offensive buy-in. And then Newhook had his freshman year, and it was like, yep.
We don't care. Yeah. And it's funny because Krebs had a great year, too.
Yeah,
off that Achilles injury on a really bad Winnipeg.
Got back to health and absolutely murdered with Winnipeg.
Yeah, there was not a good ice team, and he was awesome. He does everything for that club, and he's great. The middle round guy that Minnesota took a couple years ago that I really liked was Ivan Lodnia.
Newhook or Caulfield? Like more on Newhook, easy.
Oh yeah, Newhook definitely. I will say I've come around more on Caulfield, and I'm heartened to know that Caulfield was not going to be if Newhook had gone to Montreal like so many people were expecting. The Avs would have gone with Krebs, and then we would be having the Krebs Caulfield thing.
Yep,
which I would have no issues with.
Same. On that note, I guess it's time to wrap up. I'm super excited for WJCs. I know AJ is as well. Hope you guys are too. Look, it's hockey that is actually watchable and awesome. So we'll probably do at least one more, if not a couple more shows on it over the next week or two.
We'll definitely at least be doing a segment as to what's going on during WJCs while things are going down.
So we'll have some of that information for you, at very least keeping up with the Avs prospects there. Isn't next week our season previews start, I believe?
They're supposed to.
So
we have to find the time to start making them.
coming very shortly. We have a bunch of season preview stuff for the Avs coming your way, so keep your eyes peeled for that next week as well. Putting a lot of work into these. Shout out our production team who's right now like working their butts off on New Year's Eve to get all the graphics and stuff ready for that. So when they come out, be sure to watch them. They're awesome. We're going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. Y'all know the drill there. We will be off for Christmas Day. We're usually 5 days a week, but, when it's a holiday like that, sometimes you got to take a day off.
For the record, we're also off on New Year's Day. So.
Yep. 220 some pods this year, I think. So
yeah.
A couple days off at the end's all right, I guess. Anyway, thank you again. We will catch all of you guys next week on Monday.